Hey there everybody, Kendall here. So, Addison and I did Free Spirit Talks earlier today, and it's just been one of those, weeks, couple weeks, month, year, I don't know. Maybe it's just a lifetime of learning, coming out and understanding it, but over the course of the last couple weeks, for sure, I have experienced so many massive triggers. And as I was talking about on Free Spirit Talks today, I just feel like it has just been like 10 days of just trigger zone on so many different things. And one of the areas that definitely I know I keep seeing come up in my world and in clients' worlds and in friends' worlds and even with my own children and close friends and everything is the topic of thinking that you know, but you don't really know. And what am I talking about there? Well, what I'm talking about is that my internet doesn't want to work for me to be able to do something over here. Is that have you ever had somebody tell you what you feel or what you're thinking or why you're doing something, and right down at your core you're like, no, that's not why at all. That is not at all what I'm feeling. That's not at all what I'm thinking. That's not at all how I am, why I'm doing what I'm doing. You have no effing clue. So what comes up for you, right? When somebody tells you how you're feeling, what you're thinking, or why you're doing something, I mean, if you're like the majority of people, you're probably going, don't tell me what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Like, you are not me. You do not know what's going on inside of me. You have no right to assume that you understand anything, right? And that's the reality, is that we don't have the right to assume that we understand, that we can possibly comprehend another person's shoes. We will never know what it is like to walk in another person's shoes. And those shoes are not just the physical actions, the physical life of that other person. It is the thoughts that they're thinking. It is the feelings that they are having. It is the reasoning for why they are choosing to do any particular thing in their life. We really don't have any ability to ever understand why somebody else is doing anything. And I know that, the topic of today and over the last couple days has been based on triggers. It's been based on, pulling up of old trauma. It's been based on consent. It's been based on, like pushing over boundaries, ignoring the consent, ignoring somebody's permissions or their yeses, their authentic answers, like when somebody says, I'm a no, or when somebody says, I'm a yes. And we just kind of ignore that because we want to hear or to experience what we want to occur. Therefore, we just kind of wash away what that person is actually thinking or what that person is stating that they are requiring in that moment or needing in that moment with their words, with their actions, with their body language, and we just disregard it. Because we're going after what will meet our needs, what will make us, what we think, happy, right? So we disregard everything else. And that is, in essence, the exact same thing as when we go, no, that's not what you really mean. No, that's not what really you need. This is what you need. This is what you want. And earlier on Free Spirit Talks, I had mentioned a story about my mother who I spent as my childhood and into my early adult years. And it took me a long time to really just plant my foot here and go, no, Mom, you don't get to tell me what I want or what I need, because she is one of those people that's really, really fantastic at saying, no, shut up. That was her words. No, shut up. And she would literally put her hand out towards me and like, no, shut up. you don't get to decide. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. And then she would dangle it over my head, a year later, 2 years later, and say, well, I did this for you on March 23rd, 1996 at 6:04 p.m. I did that, it was like that kind of thing. And I had never even asked for it. Well, then I ended up getting married in my late teen years, and my marriage, my ex-husband, one of the things that I don't know if he's actually guilty of doing it anymore. I don't really pay that much attention to that relationship just because we raise kids together, sort of, kind of. But we have enough distance and enough time now, a decade of not being together. So, one of the things, though, that used to drive me crazy in that relationship was getting told what I was thinking, or why he would psychologically break down the reasons as to why I was doing something and tell me about it in the heat of the moment, kind of thing. Then I wasn't coming to him trying to get something fixed. I wasn't coming in asking for answers or anything. It was that, hey Kendall, you know why you're doing that? I know what you're thinking right now. I know why you're acting like this right now, blah, 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 blah. And to be told why I was doing something, or why I was acting the way I was, and to have that whole breakdown according to his viewpoint, not according to my truth. Well, we do this a lot. We do this with our children. We do it in our friendships. We do it in our intimate relationships. We do it with, people that we work with and everything, because it is so hard. And here's the reason. So here's the psychological breakdown in very simple layman terms, keeping it simple, is that we really truly have an issue with not getting it our way. We don't like to get it. We don't like hearing no. We don't like having things not go our way. We don't like being out of control. We don't like having somebody not line up in the way that we want them to line up, thus the event, the experience, the emotion, the connection. So we try to force what we want to have happen, and we put off what we're desiring to have happen, or our feelings about a situation or wanting in that situation. We put that onto somebody else, and we'll say, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what you're wanting. This is, so it can be our positives or our negatives. We might fear something, it's kind of like the person who is having an affair, who is blaming their partner who's not having an affair of having an affair. And why does the person having an affair blame the non-affair partner about it? Because there is so much upheaval in their own system, so they're just pointing out at that other person, and it's reflecting back, and they're going, no, I see this in you, I see that, I think you're doing this, I think you're doing that, and I think you're, I don't think that, blah blah blah. I remember towards the end of my last relationship, one of the things that my ex said to me was, maybe you just don't know how to be happy. Maybe you just don't know how to be happy. Maybe you're scared of the happiness that we have. And this was said, like a week before we broke up, before he physically hurt me. and everything went really, really south. But the statement there was that he believed that I was not accepting my own happiness, that I was not open to being loved. And the flip is the honest truth of it. It was his own closure to love, his own closure to connection, to intimacy that was coming out, and he was pointing that directly at me and trying to say, hey, this is all you. You're doing it. This is not me. I'm good, doing great over here. I've got, all this stuff. I see a whole bunch of faces popping up. I bet that's Addison laughing her butt off because she knows the situation. Right? But it really is that, we do things like that where we just kind of point outward to somebody else. So to keep this short, it really is that when we are dealing with other people, and I'm very much on a consent driven case this week on everything, it's really, really important to recognize in self because we're all guilty of this, okay? Nobody is clean of this sin, you could say, of putting words, thoughts, feelings, and even actions that are not true of somebody else onto somebody else. Like, we all do this. This is a normal relationship thing, but it is not healthy. It is not healthy. Just because it's normal does not mean that it's healthy. Just because everybody does it doesn't mean that we should all just be like, oh, well, we should just be okay with it because it's just, what happens. No. It's kind of like, it really is the strychnine of the relationship field, because it kills communication, it kills intimacy, it kills trust. It really severs the connection. A lot of the times when I'm working with different couples, I will hear from one side, well, he always thinks this of me, or she always thinks this of me, and that's not at all what I'm meaning here. Or they think that I should blah, 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 or they think that this is what I'm doing. And then I get the other side, and they're like, this is really what I'm feeling right here, that I'm like, I'm feeling this and I'm wanting this and blah, blah, blah. And it'll be polar opposite of what they are getting told that they are doing, or that they are wanting, or that they are asking for, when they're not actually asking, wanting, or doing any of that. So I encourage you today to kind of look at your relationships, look at the places where you may possibly be guilty of doing just this. Where are you making assumptions? Where are you putting words into somebody else's mouth? Where are you not being present in your relating with other people, and instead going, no, I'm going to put on you what I desire, what I want, what I need, and make it yours. Here's the funny thing about this. When we put that kind of stuff onto somebody else, it initially feels like we're controlling the situation, like we have control of it, because we understand at a deeper level. We're reading deeper into the scenario, into the situation. We can see what that other, like suddenly we're all psychic, and we can really see into the other person's desires and wants and needs, and where they're at and who they really are. Like, we really see everything that they have no clue of inside themselves. Number one, that's bullshit, right? It's total bullshit. But what we do in that, when we really think that we are controlling the situation and that we're oh so smart that we got all this down, what we're actually doing is we are giving up our power in that moment. We're giving up our power in that moment to the other person, you could say, without getting their consent to give them our power even. We are now putting them in control of our joy, our happiness. And we're kind of going, oh, I'm going to put myself in this bondage here, and I'm going to give you the key that you didn't ask for, and I'm going to make you my guardsman, and I'm going to make you the tower, and I'm locking myself up because I'm proclaiming that this is what you're doing and this is what you're wanting, and now I have no control over my actions. I'm just going to go in and do what I know you really want me to do, which is probably not at all what the other person wants. So just realize that even though when you're acting in this state of deeper understanding towards something, the mind reading of the people in your life, that and you feel oh so powerful and knowledgeable and deeply, really getting the situation, that if it is not the accurate truth of the other person, that you are doing a disservice to both of you and to the relationship. You are completely disrespecting yourself. You are completely disrespecting the other person, and together you are disrespecting the relationship, because there is no truth in the relationship in that moment. When you are putting words, ideas, feelings, actions into another person that's not theirs, and that they have not actually committed to and stated, then what you're doing is you are creating this illusion, this fantasy realm, and you're trying to live with this fantasy realm as though it is. And what that does is it strips away all respect. It dishonors everything. There is no love in that kind of fantasy illusion of relationship. There is no truth, no authenticity. And what you really do is you handcuff both parties into the fantasy land, because you're so blind to the lies that you are telling yourself, the lies that you are trying to paint on the other person, and the mask that you are putting on that other person, because you're actually scared of seeing their truth. You're scared of hearing their authentic answers. You're scared that probably, and at the truth of it, probably what the fear is that you're not worthy of the love, worthy of the connection, worthy of the relationship, worthy of the truth. And you're probably deep down terrified of losing that relationship. Realize that when you put a mask on another person, no matter how all this makeup on this other person, and you create this figment that and create what you think they want and who you think they are, that you're not seeing who they are. And what you're really truly doing is not allowing the relationship to develop in authenticity, in truth. And what you're doing then is you're living this lie. You're living a lie, and that's just not going to ever, ever, ever turn out the way you want it to. It will not end in, a happy, there's not going to be this beautiful, happy ending to this picture. Chances are what will happen is that person will at some point draw a line in the sand, retract, and basically just sever the relationship, burn the bridge, because there's nobody on the planet that can go a lifetime where they are getting that kind of abuse from one person. And it is abuse, because if you disregard somebody at that level, in their words, in their feelings, in their actions, and you put what your wants are on them consistently, you are not loving of that person at all. You are not valuing of that person at all. You are not even being human with that person. You are treating them as an object of your desire, an object of your pleasure, and you are using this other human being for your needs and your needs only, because what their needs are completely being escaped in the situation. You are not paying any attention to that. So realize that if you think that you love somebody, if you think that you care for them, if you think that the relationship is valuable to you, if you truly, truly believe that, then you need to shut the fuck up and actually listen to what their words are. Pay attention to what their body language is saying. Pay attention to what their needs are. It doesn't mean that you have to always give them their needs. It doesn't mean that you always have to provide, that you have to be, the people pleaser. But if you are requesting of them something that they are not consenting to, then it's time to get right with what you are actually requesting, and right with their authentic yes, their authentic no, and actually loving them unconditionally. Because if you can't get right with their authentic yes and their no, then there's conditions on the relationship, and it's not truly love. It's not truly connection and the depth of the relationship that you might believe that it is. So, okay, guys. Go read the article that I just wrote on touch, because that article that I put out hour and a half ago is definitely touching on this as well. I also wrote another article a couple days ago talking about sexual trauma and everything. There's just been a lot of conversation around this coming up in my world and with different people, and even with self and everything. And I can tell you that this is a topic that touches both sexes. This is a topic that impacts all relationship. And the reality is that when we disregard somebody's authentic yes and no, when we disregard what they are truly saying, and no matter how they're choosing to speak it to us, when we disregard that, what we end up doing is we cause trauma to that person. And that's indeed not probably what you're desiring to do in any relationship that you're actually caring about. And I don't even believe that you want to cause trauma in relationships that you don't care about. I believe that the majority of people want to be good people, be people of peace, of love, and emotional maturity, and not do damage in this world, but be a positive ripple effect. Well, if that is something that you want to be, a positive ripple effect, realize that anytime you put your desires, your needs onto somebody else, and you make assumptions about them, that you are causing trauma. You are causing massive trauma, and you're more than likely acting out of a complete self-centered way of being, and that is not selfish. Okay, it is self-centeredness, to act for only self-care and only for the desire to please self, and that is it. So you are taking out all other parties in that moment and just focused on what will make me happy at any cost. I will be the only one that will be being happy here. There is no win-win scenario going on. There is no addressing of consent, boundaries, needs, of other people. There is no compassion, there is no humanness in self-centeredness. It is just about the act of pleasing the self and the self alone, and it doesn't really matter what kind of damage that might do. Okay, so if you want a positive ripple effect in your relationships, if you want to learn about authentic love, if you want to connect at a deeper level, if you want to, have emotional maturity, if you want to eliminate jealousy and the ideas of the fear of losing the people in your life, no matter what that relationship might be, realize that when you also put these masks on, you come at people with a very needy, aggressive, energetic tone, and what that does is it takes them and it squishes the relationship. It squishes the life right out of that relationship, which causes most people to contract, most people to say no to the relationship. So what you fear the most will actually end up happening because you have squished it to death. You have suffocated it with your illusions, with your falsities, and with your assumptions of what you think or what you desire to have happen, and made that the primary focus instead of actual relationship, which means two-way street. So, in the comment section, you will see a link to the article that I just wrote. As far as local stuff going on Saturday, Addison, Bell, and I, if you are local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, realize that on Saturday we will be teaching our summer orgasm camp. That sounds a lot sexier than what it probably is. We do teach on female sexuality, we teach on permissions, we teach on boundaries, we teach on sacred space, we teach on all the stuff that I've been talking about for the last week, and in today's Conscious Coffee and Free Spirit Talks and the articles that you're seeing, because this is the kind of stuff that shuts us women down to sex. This is the kind of stuff that shuts us women down to connection, down to intimacy. It closes us off, and it makes it so hard for us to desire relationship of any kind. And we can get shut down no matter, it can be a new relationship, it can be an old relationship. We can get triggered by so many different things. It's vitally important to understand the psychological aspects of our sex as well as the physical aspects, and how the psychological and the emotional actually embed in the body and block up everything. What we talk about in Orgasm Camp is how some of that stuff actually really buries itself down into the muscular tissue and even into the joints and everything, and just kind of numbs a woman out. So we're going to talk about that stuff, plus give a whole bunch of really cool, sexy tips and tricks and all that good stuff. We're going to talk about, of course, orgasm, how to have a bigger, better one, but also if you're having a tough time, what could possibly be locking you up there, and how to start to release that in a very healthy fashion. So Orgasm Camp is this Saturday here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you are not local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you cannot get your bum here by Saturday, aw, too bad, we will miss you. There will be another camp similar to this in December called Winter Wonderlust. So perhaps you could plan that. Perhaps you could reach out and say, hey, I want on that list, that early bird registration list for the Winter Wonderlust camp, because I want to really catch that class. Or you can go and you can research through the many programs that I have to offer, or the one-on-one coaching that I have, or the couples coaching, which is available, where we can discuss all of these topics, the healing benefit of doing so many different tantric practices and internal shift work, where we can really release all that stored up trauma and start accessing the power of the authentic self, and how that can tap into your sexual life, into your intimate life, into your creative life, into your joy, your happiness, the relationship with any single person, because your sex does impact every relationship in your life, including your relationship with money, including that one. Yes, your sex has a connecting piece even there. So reach out to me if you would like to know any more on any of those topics. As always, you can follow me at www.kendalwilliams.com. And remember, stop existing, start living. Make sure that you hit the share button if anything in here that I have said has touched you in any way or made you think of somebody that might need to hear it. I love you guys. I will catch you tomorrow with another Conscious Coffee. Catch you then. Bye.